Hello everyone, this is CDenovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video. Now unfortunately it is the international break, which is ironic because for the majority of the season we've celebrated the fact that it's been an international break, but there is a wee bit of lull in the football, and that usually means a lull in the videos. But there is something on my mind that I feel like we do need to talk about, and as we do have a wee bit of time, I thought there is no better time than the present to talk about the one, the only Barry Ferguson. Because not only is it a hot topic, not only is he on my mind 24/7, but we also did mention when he was hired roughly about 2.5, nearly 3 weeks ago, that during this international break we would reflect, we would break down, we would look at Barry's reign, because again, when he was appointed, everything that could have went wrong was pretty much going wrong, and then we hired what was, to some people, a silly appointment, a daft, a reckless, a staunch appointment. There was a lot of opinions about Barry Ferguson being appointed, and a lot of people were saying we should have stuck with Clement, and there was massive games, and it was going to define not only Barry Ferguson's reign, but where this club was going and what the hell their direction actually was. So we says, let's get through to the next international break, then we can reflect on it. That's what we said when Barry was appointed, and now we are here today, just that. But we're not only here to talk about how he's been doing and how we've been playing, because we live that every day. But as I've started to look and I've heard the conversation, I've seen your comments, Barry for manager, Barry, is there any chance, Barry, my gut in that reaction or gut initial feeling is still to say no, Barry Ferguson will not be the next permanent manager. But again, this channel's not just about me saying what I think and I just want people to hear that. I always try and look at it from different people's perspectives, and as I went down this rabbit hole of Barry being the next permanent manager, I found there striking similarities and some incredible parallels with another name that's heavily linked with the next permanent manager position at this club by the name of Steven Gerrard. So there is a lot to discuss today, so strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't mind hitting that like button, that'd be greatly appreciated, and I will try to entertain you whilst keeping it safe, and that means there will be zero water sprayed at any point, so you didn't need to phone the police. Anyway, troops, as we did mention Gerrard's name, as we have mentioned Ferguson's name, and as we've mentioned, the next permanent position, I'm sure there's a lot of opinions, but just give me the next 5 to 10 minutes to go ahead and break it all down, and then we can go ahead and have our say, because again, some of them are striking parallels, and I do want to bring it to you. But before we do go ahead and do that, let's reflect on how Barry's done and about his 3-week position at the manager role at this club, and again, going through this tricky journey. His first game came 2 days after his appointment, as he went obviously at Rugby Park, a place and a stadium against a team that statistically is our second worst place to go in terms of picking up our results. And after being 2-0 down and getting battered for the majority of the first half, somehow, some way, this team responded and came back with a thrilling win that we all thought, oh, Barry, he's got the players gone. We went into his homecoming a couple of days later and got embarrassed again as this Rangers team went ahead and broke another losing record, allowing Motherwell to win back-to-back games at Ibrox, which was a sobering slap in the face, and it did deflate a lot of us. But now I sit back and I reflect and I look at that game and I look at that loss to Motherwell, and I would almost argue, in fact I would argue, I think that might have been the best thing that could have happened to Barry Ferguson's short, maybe permanent reign at this football club, because again, that gave him the opportunity to see what's wrong with this club, and that gave him the perfect opportunity to see why managers have been sacked and why there's players in that dressing room that's been responsible for more people on the dole since Maggie Thatcher. He got to see it with his very own eyes, the highs, the Wednesday, the promises, the speeches, to then go lifeless in to the next game and embarrass the entire fan base. You know what I mean? He's got to live that, he's got to see it, and again, it could have just been the thing that was needed, because if we go ahead and win that game, he's going to start to deal with the rest. Oh, this is brilliant, this is an easy job, this is great, I love all these players. No, he got slapped in the face and embarrassed in his homecoming, and knowing what I know of Barry and what we've all heard from Barry, he wouldn't have took that lightly, and I think that slap is why you saw such a response versus Fenerbahce. And again, I've already said it a couple times right here on the channel, but it doesn't really take anything away. He tactically shocked and outcoached one of the greatest managers of all time on his own surface, you know what I mean? Changing the formation on the fly, doing something we hadn't done prior, and it caught Jose off guard and getting one of the best results away from home we've had in a very, very long time. 3-1, all sunshines and rainbows, and then we went ahead and took that into our next game, which obviously was at Ibrox, and again, Jose did respond. Again, Barry never tweaked anything. Jose was ready for it. Again, one of the greatest managers showed why he is he just picked holes in what we tried today and took one of our strengths a week prior to one of our biggest negatives that we had to rip it up and change the formation again during the game. But again, the players stuck in. Yes, we lost the game through 90 minutes, etc, etc, but the players stayed in it and won on penalty kicks, showing that mentality and refusing to die in that period of the game before going ahead and playing just 3 days later, gone to Parkhead, where again it was maybe the perfect way to summarise the two-legged tie versus Fenerbahce in a 90-odd minute game versus Celtic, because we got everything, you know what I mean? Just like the first game versus Fenerbahce, we had a brilliant first half, we were amazing, and then just like the second half versus, or the second game versus Fenerbahce in the second half versus Celtic, it went a little bit wrong, but again, mentally we stayed on it, mentally we were strong. We didn't buckle, we didn't fall away like we've done the majority of the season, and Barry's influence is there as we go ahead and deservedly win at Parkhead, where again nobody gave us a hope in hell. And I think if you look at the 2.5 weeks that Barry's been in a position, he's went to Rugby Park, he's played a Jose Mourinho side in a two-legged tie in Europe, and then he's went to Parkhead after that, and not only after that run of fixtures, but after 120 minutes plus, penalties gone to their gaff, doing something that a manager's not done since 1994 for the great Walter Smith, and that's winning his first Old Firm game at Parkhead. An incredible achievement, and I think if you step back and look at it, I know it's just 5 games, I know technically it's just 3 wins with a loss versus Motherwell and a loss versus Fenerbahce, but we prevailed in the tie, and that's all that matters. And I think if you put that in the context of where we are in the season, it's not just alright results, I'd argue it's fantastic results, barring obviously the embarrassing Motherwell result, but again that's had a domino effect and that shoot things up in the old building. So I think if you look at that perspective, not only did he do a fantastic job, I don't think he could have done much better picking up where he started and picking up a group of players that again was just breaking record after record for embarrassing themselves, you know what I mean? To give them a wee bit of life and drill into them the standards. It doesn't matter, you do this, you do this, you do this, you're still playing for Glasgow Rangers and you still need to give everything. That's what we've seen in every single game, especially post Motherwell. There's never been one part of a game you thought somebody was coasting or skiing through it or no ball, and they gave absolutely everything. Now again, the big challenge is going to see that going away when we go to Dens Park next week, or the 28th I should say, so that is going to be a big challenge because technically his ratio is win-loss, 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 and that does need to change versus Dundee, but again we're no there yet, we're reflecting on what's came. For me, he couldn't have done much better. You can let me know your opinions down in the comment section below, but because of the way that it has went, I do want to go down that rabbit hole. I do want to talk about Gerrard, I do want to talk about some incredible similarities, because again the next permanent position at Rangers is the major talking point. Everyone's having their say, and again because of how well Barry's done, he's now starting to get a wee bit his name chucked in the hat there, because people are recognising a Rangers team for the first time. You know, you're seeing heart, you're seeing passion, you're not seeing emotionless, lifeless robots running about being strangled into playing one specific way. We're changing on the fly, we're going, we're attacking weaknesses, we're seeing a manager actually manage his players and getting the best out of his players rather than trying to force players into his ideologies and or his philosophy, I should say. So he is putting his name out there, and again, as my gut initial reaction to that each and every single time you comment asking me down in the comment section is no, I don't think it happened. Let's talk about if it should. And that's now where we pick up where we sort of teased earlier on in the video, because just like Barry, Gerrard's name is sort of floating around the place. There is people want to come back, and if you look at it in terms of a story, if you want to go down that way, Gerrard left because he wasn't getting backed by the board and he could see what was coming, this sharp decline at Rangers. He felt like he deserved more, so he went ahead and left. But again, a lot of those people are leaving. This pending takeover will clear the decks, and could Gerrard come back and finish what he started? There is a story story in there, and we could talk about it if it ever goes and happens. But we're not just here to talk about, is it Gerrard or is it Ferguson? Again, I am looking, well, a lot of people's asked me in the comment section below, should Barry get the opportunity? Could he be given? And as I've went down this rabbit hole and really looked at it as fairly as I can, again, these similarities with Gerrard is right damn there. So that's what we're going to do now for the rest of this video, so stay with me. Because one of the biggest negatives and maybe the biggest criticism of Barry potentially being the next manager is his lack of experience. And despite how well Barry's done so far in his 2.5 weeks in the big job at Rangers, there is still people saying he was only given this incredible opportunity because of what he achieved as a player, which when you start to remember how Steven Gerrard was announced, it becomes pretty damn ironic, and you can see why both names are intertwined regarding this video, because both managers are exactly the same. You know what I mean? They made their reputations based as players. Now, despite me being a massive fanboy of Barry Ferguson, I'm not going to sit here and look you in the eyes and say that Barry had the exact same impact on football as Steven Gerrard did. You know what I mean? It's a much bigger league in terms of viewership and known around the world. People watch English football. They've seen what Gerrard's done, the stuff in the Champions League. You know what I mean? Incredible football player. But you could genuinely make an argument for what Gerrard means to Liverpool, Barry Ferguson means to a lot of us. You know what I mean? Barry was running the show against the likes of Bayern Munich in the Champions League when he was like 18, 20, breaking in to the squad. You know what I mean? He put in some incredible opportunities. He captained us. He done when he did, coming through the academy, getting all the way through to the big show, and ran us for a lot of good years. You know what I mean? So there is that comparisons, and I think it is very fair to say that both players have made such an impact during their player careers that the managerial door opened for them wider than it would be if two of them were just managers or coaches standing at the sidelines. Clearly, both of them got a head start because what they achieved as players. So for me, that's right there to be seen. So the argument that Barry's only got the opportunity because he played for us, you know what I mean? It's a bit silly when you look at the round of the rest. That's kind of what happens in football. But let's talk about the other big negative, and something again that I always go through is his lack of managerial experience, especially at this level. But again, looking back to when Gerrard was announced, we absolutely lost our minds. What experience did Steven Gerrard have had apart from his name being Steven Gerrard? I know it's pretty blunt, and I know it might be a bit silly, but it is fair to look at, and it is fair to criticise. Steven Gerrard was at the youth level at Liverpool, for about a year before we gave him the big job. What experience did he actually have? If we're actually being fair to Baz, if you will, Barry's actually had more experience than Gerrard did when Gerrard went ahead and was announced, because again, as we've already mentioned several times, Barry has had that experience maybe at the grass leagues, lower leagues, working his way up. Now again, it's not always worked out at every club that he's been at, but he's been in the jobs, he's went into some tricky positions, and he's challenged himself and got valuable experience. So the lack of experience argument for me is pretty irrelevant, because the one manager that a lot of people champion over the last 5 to 6 years had less experience than Baza. So that scale for me is in Barry's favour. Now, of course, that's when Gerrard was appointed, to compare to when Barry could potentially be appointed. If you're looking at now, Gerrard's obviously went on to have more experiences. He obviously left us to go to Aston Villa. Didn't happen there. He ended up getting sacked, and then he's went over to Saudi, which I don't know like what they were really expecting from him. You know what I mean? Some people say he's done alright, other people say no, hang it, he wasn't able, he's supposed to challenge us or do this to wait at the club. It's a very messy situation in Saudi, the league troops, and I didn't really understand it, but he left according to himself. He just wanted away from it. So he's a much more experienced manager now, and he's tasted the Premier League, he's went and earned a lot of money, he's managed some incredible football players over there as well. So he's a much more experienced manager now than Barry. But again, when they were appointed, Barry has the old top in, and there's even other funny things you can sit and look at if you didn't want to just go through the managerial experience of this and this. There's stuff you can look at as well, because just like Barry Ferguson right frickin' now, when Steven Gerrard was appointed, a lot of the praise and the tactical stuff, we as fans said, aye, Gerrard's great, everything, but Bale's the mastermind. That's exactly what a lot of people do for Barry Ferguson right now, because say, oh, Barry's great, but McCann's the tactical analysis, he's the brains behind the opportunity, the operations behind the scenes, and he's the one that's running the show. And I feel like Rangers fans, we should learn our lessons, because again, we gambled on that, and we went with the ideas, man, and did it work out? Nah. It set this club back massively, especially with the players and a lot of the money that went ahead and wasted. Again, it's fine being an ideas man, it's fine being the inspiration, you could fire out 1,000 ideas, but what does that compute to if you're not picking the right ones? And now I sit back and I look at Gerrard's reign and I look at what he was doing with Beale and everything like that. Beale clearly had a lot of ideas, you hear that for the players themselves, not even just at Rangers but Villa, etc, etc. He is credited for a lot of the ideas, but again, Gerrard was the one that was picking the right ones, and I feel like that's an important one too. You need, so I feel like we need to be very, very careful when we're looking at Barry's reign right now and giving all the praise to McCann. He might be coming up with the tactical stuff with us and firing these ideas, but it's Barry that's making the decisions. You've heard that as well from press conferences, you've heard that from Barry himself. It was his decision. The management team thought it was too early to try the system change versus Fenerbahce, but Barry thought it was time, and it worked out perfectly. So even in that, if you look at it with Gerrard and Bale's 1-2, you've now got Barry and McCann's 1-2. And I just find that very funny to look at. And you know what? That's roughly where I am, you know what I mean? What seemed like an absolute ludicrous and ridiculous question to ask 2.5, 3 weeks to go, now that we've actually lived a wee bit of it, now that we've actually seen some changes, now that we've seen some performances, there's certainly a bit more of a case to be made. Now again, do I truly think that Barry Ferguson should be the next Rangers manager? It's still a no for me, because it's still far too early. But in terms of making the right start, making the right impressions and starting up there, pushing that big boulder up the hill, he's done incredibly well, and I really hope he does go on to dominate the rest of the season. You know what I mean? Winning every game, but doing it convincingly, seeing performances, and I really hope every fibre of my being we can shock the European world again and send Bilbo's ass out the competition to keep the European dream alive. If he does that, and we do see that mentality approach, we didn't see players skating through the results, because they've turned up versus Fenerbahce, they've turned up versus Celtic, but if we see them again at Dens Park sauntering about, no bothering their ass because it's no big enough to really tickle their appetite, then no, it does need to be a different voice in there, and it does need to be different players in and around the building. But again, that is where we are, that's all we can address right now. It's still very, very early, but has he hurt his chances? No. Has he enhanced it? Absolutely. So the question shouldn't be Barry in. The question for me is, why no Barry? And as I've tried to show in today's video, when you ask that question, you look at it fairly, there is actually a lot you can dive into. And again, the similarities he shares with Gerrard, the last Rangers manager to bring the success that should be happening at this club in terms of winning a league title, there's enough there to get a little bit excited about and defend him a wee bit, because some of the stuff I see said about Barry, you know what I mean, I'm a fanboy, so I always try to defend them, but again, we've hired the right managers, you know what I mean? We hired a guy like Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, who's got that connection with the club, incredible player as well, by the way, but also had the pedigree, winning trophies in Holland and doing this and doing this. He came here, but he was too nice, and again, his approach, he couldn't really just drill into these players, he couldn't grab them by the scruff of the neck, and he trusted players who eventually let him down. He was also let down by the board as well, but we'll move on. For there, we then went and got the ideas man in terms of Michael Beale that we all thought was going to be great. That set our club back years with wasting all that money, and then we went ahead and took our time. We picked what we thought was the right man in terms of stats and statistics. Phil Clement, spending the money, great CV, great this, great that, winning this, winning that, winning that. Everyone suggested that Clement should have been success. He ticked every box in that aspect, but it completely crumbled in to nothing. And I guess what I'm trying to say in today's video, and what I'm trying to say about not even just Barry, but where we go forward, there is not a perfect solution. There's not a perfect answer out there that is a surefire success, because even the best CV can crumble up at Rangers. We saw that last time, so would Barry be a gamble? Absolutely. And it's still too early for me to champion him being the next permanent manager, but is it as a ridiculous and ludicrous question it should be slammed down, sneered and mocked at anymore? Nah. And if you're paying attention, Isn't he? Long way to go, and these players have certainly let down enough Rangers managers that I can't fully trust him to really push over the line. But if there's anybody right now that I believe that can spark and get enough juice out of this team to the end of the season, it's that man in the dugout. It's why I was excited about him being the interim manager. It's why I sat here and said Clement should have been sacked. So am I sitting 3 weeks later feeling like Clement was right to be sacked? Yes. Am I happy that Barry's in there as interim manager? Yes. Should he be appointed the next permanent manager? I'll hand that reins over to you down in the comments section. Well, still a wee bit early to me, but has he hurt his chances? No, he's only enhanced them. But that's my thoughts and opinions. And again, as you asked me these questions and I was sitting back thinking over the last day or two, I went down that hole and I thought it was very, very interesting. I just wanted to talk about it right here today. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you want anything else discussed right here on the channel, again, this is as much your channel as it is mine. So let me know down in the comment section below and we'll discuss it right here. And until next time, I've been CJ92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best and bye-bye.